is this?
This is Fred. Who's this? Who are you trying to call?
Hello, Fred. What are you doing?
I'm just making some popcorn.
Oh, some popcorn, huh? You about to watch a scary movie?
I'm actually about to record a podcast.
What's your favorite? Did you say a podcast?
Yeah, State of the Franchise with Tom and Fred.
What?
Well, instead I could send you a link. I think you would really like it. I don't know you personally, but I think it's kind of for everybody. Hello? Hello, are you there?
It's the State of the Franchise with Thomas
and Frederick.
With Thomas
and Frederick.
It's the State of the Franchise with Thomas
and Frederick.
With Thomas
and Frederick.
Welcome to another very special episode during our special month of Scare of the Franken-chise.
Scream of the Franken-chise.
Damn, we just did it. Scream of the Franken-chise.
Yes.
This wasn't rehearsed at all. Tom, we're in the middle of our special Halloween month.
We are in the middle of spooky season, Fred, and the spooks are in the air. We feeling the veil between the living and the dead is thin, and yeah, I mean we're getting scared out here. But Fred, we are screaming today.
Mm-hmm. We've been teasing a scream for the past few episodes, and here we are to actually do it. I'm pretty excited.
Absolutely, yes. We are talking about the Scream franchise today. All 6 of the movie installments that are so far in the franchise, which follows I guess mostly they follow Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, as she is being hunted or stalked by the Ghostface killer, who's not always the same person.
Mm-hmm. And not the one from Wu-Tang Clan either.
No, not that one. But Fred, as much as I know we are fans of the Scream franchise, we did bring in somebody today who is an even bigger fan of the Scream franchise. Would you like to introduce our guest?
Yes, I would. We have one of the greatest performers in Milwaukee. Someone that I love to share the stage with. Someone who brings laughs upon laughs and tears upon tears. We have Robby McGhee in the house today.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Robby. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. I literally am the biggest Scream fan, coming in at 6'6" and 400 pounds. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we're happy to have you on the show. So, I mean, getting into spooky season, obviously, we have a lot of different things we like to talk about. And I think everybody loves watching movies and like scary movies and stuff. But why is Scream your favorite scary movie, Robby?
It was the second scary movie I ever saw in my life.
Whoa.
The first being Leprechaun at the age of 5.
Wow.
Too young.
My neighbor's house, and I thought I would never be able to sleep again. And then come 7th grade, I get the chance to see this movie that all of my friends are talking about.
Yeah.
Scream. And again, I cannot sleep for at least 3 weeks long. And since then, I just fell so in love with it that every time a Scream movie comes out, regardless of who's going to be in it, I'm going to be in the theater seeing it. I'll drop what I'm doing in order to see it because I have to know what happens.
Yeah. Are you somebody that needs to go opening weekend just so you don't get anything spoiled for you?
Not necessarily, because I'm not a person that reads online things, and people don't really post on Facebook or Twitter about Scream that are in my network.
Sure. That's totally fair. Totally fair. So Scream, you got into it and then you were just like, got to see every installment. Now, do you love every single movie, the good and the bad? Or are there some that you're like, I might skip that one?
It's not like an album in the 90s. I don't skip any tracks, but I definitely have favorites for sure, because there are just a couple horrible ones in the mix that knew people like me were going to be suckers and go regardless of the quality and regardless of the names that were in the film.
Sure. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that today. What about you, though, Fred? What was some of your history of seeing Scream?
I feel the major history because I think I've talked about this on the podcast a lot. I was definitely not allowed to watch scary stuff growing up. There was a strict PG rule in the household that I could not go past. But, sometimes, parents got to go out of town and grandparents got to come take care of. And me and my grandmother had a bad relationship in this way because I would multiple times try to get her to buy or rent things I wasn't allowed to watch. I remember getting her to buy me Jurassic Park and having it in the player. And it's like the opening scene where like the dinosaur's in the cage and I hear in the background my grandmother's on the phone. Oh, he's just watching a movie we picked up. Jurassic Park. What? And then she comes and shuts it off. But Scream 2, I convinced her to let me rent one weekend when she was taking care of me from the library.
Wow.
And I just remember seeing these covers because the covers were so great. They had like, the scared silhouette faces, but then they had these like real angsty pictures of the whole cast. Like they had like the nice hair, and depending on who was in each one, they had different profile shots. And I just remember looking at those boxes, bringing home Scream 2, watching it on VHS and being like, this is great. I don't really know who these people are because I'm jumping in halfway through. And the funniest thing was, I'm pretty sure, I can say this for a fact, I saw Scary Movie before I saw Scream 1. So those movies are kind of tied together for me.
Yeah.
But eventually around 8th grade, I convinced my mom to get me the Trilogy 3-pack on DVD. The mom who would not let me get anything, I eventually she let me get these DVDs that I watched on repeat. And so I watched Scream 1 through 3 like hundreds of times because those were the R-rated movies I could have.
Yeah.
Like I had those at the house.
Well, and I think that we were conditioned because I remember I was a part of a group that would read all the latest Goosebumps and then come and talk about it. And then that generated to Fear Street books, which were a little bit more adult and risque. Sometimes there were actual blood in those. And then that transitioned into this new film that came out. And so I think that there was it was the cool thing to do was to go see Scream and lose sleep.
Scream is one of the coolest franchises, I will say. Like within horror, it's got a lot of cool to it.
It does. And I feel like over time, you start to appreciate what Scream was doing because it had such that like meta commentary at the time that it feels like every movie is trying to replicate. Like the thing you just said before, Fred, talking about like the covers on the movies. How many other movies like parodied that afterward? It was like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. And
Teaching Mrs. Tingle.
Yeah.
And
The Faculty.
All the movies written by Kevin Williamson.
Yeah. It's always like you had like the silhouette of like something kind of spooky, and then you had the angsty teens kind of in the forefront. It looked like a Dawson's Creek poster. Like,
maybe
Writer on Dawson's Creek, Kevin Williamson.
yeah. So did you have like you had a group of friends then that were like all into like scary stuff all the time?
Oh, absolutely. We were all in a private Catholic school that had a graduating 8th grade class of 12 people. We didn't have a lot to talk about or agree upon except for that. So, yeah, we were afraid of sinning and we were afraid of Ghostface.
I mean, as one does at age, whatever, 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I can kind of remember getting into Scream because I think it was like you guys were talking about, like it was sort of like taboo. Like you really weren't supposed to watch it because you were too young for it. Like it was like all 17-year-olds were supposed to come and see this thing. But I remember like my sister introduced me to everything because she's 3 years older than I am. And so whenever she would buy a new movie or buy a new CD, ultimately it got into my hands at some point. And Scream just happened to be one of them that she got on VHS. And parents left me alone for the night. I'm like, I'm going to pop this in. And I was just like, oh, shit. This is intense.
And I wonder if it had a bigger impact on me because it felt like it was set in a rural small town. It wasn't. It was set in California, or the characters were set in California.
Yeah.
But the very first scene out in the cornfield was very relevant for me. who I would spend weekends at my grandparents' house out in the cornfield where I could have been slaughtered and hung from a tree, and then left for dead as they, drive through the driveway and could see me being murdered, but don't. It's all coming back to me. I'm Drew Barrymore. Also, bamboozled. I mean, they got us thinking. Can we get into it? That thinking that she was going to be in the whole film.
Yeah. Speaking about the poster or the cover for the movie, she is like front and center on that thing, like right next to Nev Campbell. And you're like, they're going to be in it together. They're going to survive this thing. Boom.
But they don't.
Exactly. Which is a time-honored tradition of the movies, right? It's like you always kind of rope you in with somebody prominent who you were like, there's no way they're going to kill this person right away. And then boom, it's like they're out. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you're listening to this at home and have not watched any Scream movies and don't want this spoiled, prominent people die and we're going to talk about it. So
yes, we'll be spoiling all Scream.
Yeah. I mean, I hope you're not listening to this episode without watching Scream, but if you are, hopefully you don't mind spoilers. So anyway, but yes, back to it. It was. I think we were pretty shook. Let's talk about the first Scream. Let's get into a little bit of the history of it. So Scream 1 came out in 1996. December 20th to be specific. So this wasn't even like a Halloween era release. This was like Christmas.
Yep.
A different type of Black Christmas if you want that. You ever seen Black Christmas?
I have not. Maybe I should.
Yeah.
Me neither. No.
I haven't either. And I just know about it. And everyone's like, oh, what a movie. And I'm like, not for me, I don't think.
Yeah, because there's like a 70s one and there was a remake recently. So at least it was good enough to do twice.
Well, we'll talk about remaking horror movies, though, with this franchise.
I did want to say before you jump in further, like at this time, like the early 90s, really bad time for horror movies. At this time, you're just getting like Freddy, Jason, and Michael.
Versus Chucky, versus Bride of the, versus whatever.
This is like... This is like entries 4 and 5 of those movies, and they like weren't good since the beginning. So like this is like bad days for horror.
And they were getting weird. Like those Michael Myers, like the Halloween movies, like they're like, oh, he's not just some crazy dude. He's a demon. And it's like, but that kind of ruins it. Like, isn't the whole terror of it is that he could be anybody?
Right. He started bringing in druid cults and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It gets messy.
Well, and this was before or right at the cusp of road rules, real world. We were on the verge of making things that were very real, what entertainment was going to be, because it was cheaper to produce and people just wanted to see more people that were relatable rather than these over the top characters that, actually could not exist. Instead, you have people just calling your landline and then murdering you.
Yeah. This really did hit home. I know you were kind of joking before about like the cornfield and it feeling very relatable, but who hasn't been home alone making popcorn or something? Maybe not on your stovetop. I don't know how many people did that, but you're like at home and you're just like phone rings. You're like, who the fuck is that?
Right. But also all the prank calls that were going on in the 90s too. It was before cell phones, which... And I'll get into this later, I think was a big reason they got worse and worse was because, and that's why we're seeing movies and series like Stranger Things before there were cell phones, because things were just more interesting to watch when you couldn't communicate so quickly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's directors who've gone on record and said they don't want to make a movie before like 2000 because they just don't want to deal with the cell phone thing. They're like, we can't tell a story with text messaging.
Right. There's one point where our main character gets an instant message threat, and it's like, okay, geez Louise, do I care? No. Ooh, AOL.
And it's funny, they do try to address it in like the later sequels. They'll have like Sydney calling someone out on like caller ID or something, like, I know exactly who this is.
And the sidekick phone, do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so man, I really can't wait to dive into all this, but it is so fun watching the evolution of phones throughout this franchise. Definitely. If you go from 1 to like 6, you are like, wow, they went from having these block cell phones to like, having this sidekick.
I can't wait to see Scream 57.
So Scream was written by Kevin Williamson, as Fred mentioned before, and directed by the director of Nightmare on Elm Street, Mr. Wes Craven. And so it offered more of a self-referential approach to horror by, I think you had people that were aware that they were in like a horror movie, right? Mm-hmm. It really was almost like they knew the cameras were on, like, and they're in on the joke, despite them still making the situation feel very real. The film was originally titled Scary Movie, which is funny that they then made the parody movie off of that. I feel like Scary Movie probably didn't age super well.
And I think I could be wrong about this, but because Scary Movie was originally they had the rights to that name originally because they were going to name it that. That's why you have so many scary movies now, like Scary Movie 5, 6, 7, that aren't made by the original people because the company owned the name Scary Movie and they could just make them as much as they wanted to.
Oh, wow.
I like to think they went with Scream because of Matthew Lillard's delivery. It's a Scream, baby!
That is great. And also the Scream, the painting. The mask looks like the painting.
That's right. Yeah. The Scream, the painting, the Scream, the original Scream, if you will. The movie was considered a financial success and received a lot of critical acclaim, basically just for deconstructing the horror genre. I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, it really is just like telling you the beats of how a horror movie should go, and everybody's making fun of all the tropes, like, oh yeah, I'm a dumb bimbo that runs upstairs, when I should be going out the front door. Like the main character says that, like, literally is a line in the movie, and it really kind of just revitalized the horror genre that Fred mentioned was kind of dying and just sort of going nowhere. The films that were coming out were bad sequels that weren't making any money, or if they were very nominal, just enough to fund the next crappy sequel to come after it. So really, I think it was a revolution. I mean, revolutionized posters and it revolutionized, the way stories were told and the way that characters interacted and characters felt real in this. The film focuses on, as I mentioned before at the top of this episode, Sidney Prescott, and she comes under attack from a mysterious character who's dubbed Ghostface while dealing with the anniversary of her mother's murder. So originally, Sidney was going to be played by Drew Barrymore, who we talked about up top, but could not do that because of scheduling conflicts, and the opening role, or the role, ended up going to Neve Campbell instead, and that was a much better decision, I feel like.
Absolutely. I think that it was just brilliant to take America's sweetheart and kill her in the beginning of the movie. We all loved, she was a Charlie's Angel. She was, so many things. But she was Sugar on Batman Forever. She was, so many characters that we all just loved her. We had so many so many expectations to, and I think Drew Barrymore played a role in deciding that she was, besides scheduling, going to be killed in the beginning.
Is that right?
That's what I
saw too.
Yeah. So, I thought going with Neve Campbell was great because then all of a sudden we were like, who is this person? Mm-hmm. Why are we behind her? It made us want to be behind her and her success even more, I think.
Yeah, and you don't have any preconceived notions on who Neve Campbell was, right? If you have Drew Barrymore play that role, you're like, oh yeah, of course she's going to be kind of like, I don't know, a little flighty, like the Drew Barrymore thing of like, she's not dumb, but she does kind of seem a little like in space a little bit sometimes, which you get a little bit in her opening role, but even then, she's kind of sharp and calling this guy out when she gets that phone call in the beginning. But it is a stunner. The first time you watch this, you're like, yeah, Drew Barrymore is going to be in this. It's like watching the beginning of Mission Impossible 1 when you see like all these like famous people like Emilio Estevez and stuff. You're like, wow, we're going to be with this gang the whole movie. And it's like, bam, bam, bam. Everyone's on. Another movie that came out in 1996.
Yeah, going back to Neve Campbell, we lost Drew quickly, but then here we have Courtney Cox as well in her first dramatic role, and it was something that she wanted very badly, coming off hot from Friends, and I think she had won a Grammy by that point too for being a comedic actress, but this was it kind of kept us in because we also had this huge star at the time in this movie, and David Arquette was also famous for a few reasons as well. But yeah, it just got me hooked.
She had to outdo her fellow friend Jennifer Aniston from Leprechaun. See, it all comes full circle.
I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight.
I like that is the first thing. Like your first two horror movies had two friends in them. It's like, were any of the other friends in? Were like
Pallbearer, the most horrific movie of all time.
Ooh, yeah, that's the Matt Reeves first movie.
Oh, is that was Matt Reeves?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yikes. It's a good cast in this movie, though. I think, even beyond Nev Campbell, who is great in this. I mean, I think maybe unfortunately got kind of pigeonholed in this role.
Well, she really serves one of my parents just died. Get off my back, okay? She serves that so well in the 90s in this movie and Wild Things. She can sell that something bad's happened to me and I'm bitter against all you guys. I'm thinking more Wild Things in that case, but
The Craft, I'm a witch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Get off my back, okay?
Yeah. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Something's wrong.
Gosh, I haven't thought about The Craft in so long either. Was that before this or after this?
After.
Yeah.
I think Nev Campbell was introduced through Scream.
Okay.
Oh, Party of Five on television, but Screams are TV or movie debut for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and she's definitely the perfect conduit for the audience in this movie franchise because she's not dumb. Like, as much as she gets caught in situations like, oh, I did not see that coming, she never responds the same way that other people in this franchise do, where they're like, I'm going to try and climb through a doggy door. It's like, what are you doing? You're not going to fit.
She is absolutely so intelligent, which is why it is so catastrophic that she has sex with Billy.
Yeah.
It is a point that I wanted to talk about because I remember thinking, oh, fuck. You did not just have sex with the killer. It blows my mind, and it makes the movie that much more hard-hitting because it's so awful. You question Billy's motives a little bit because he killed the person that tore his family apart, and then he doesn't stop.
Yeah.
There's a little bit about that's just so messed up, and that's why I think that crazy motive, crazy actions. That's just like, wow. Poor Sydney.
Or just the fact that, she had lost her mom recently and this guy just keeps coming up the window trying to have sex all the time. And I'm like, bro, you got to let things chill for a bit. She's going through some shit. Yeah. And he's like, I just was watching The Exorcist and coming through the window.
It's like, can we move to an R-rated relationship? He's just the horniest dude, which I mean, listen, as a horny high school boy at one point in my life, I get it, but also it's there's tact, I mean, and Skeet Ulrich, who, I mean, I say this with love, is dollar store Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
But you know what? Today, more bankable than Johnny Depp. So.
Very true. Very true. But it feels like they definitely went for him because of his resemblance to Johnny Depp, who also was in Nightmare on Elm Street. So it's you automatically kind of associate oh, he's the good guy boyfriend. He's got her back, right? And I think for most of the movie, even up to the point that they're having sex, you're not really questioning whether or not, I mean, you're questioning, but you're not really questioning at that point, anymore.
Because a murder happens while he's under arrest, while he's detained. So
and the idea of having two murderers is not a concept until after you've seen Scream.
It's not. You're right.
No. It probably, if it's not the first movie to have done this, that it was outwardly saying the one serial killer that you presume the whole time was multiple people, then it's the most popular version of it. I mean, it was, and that probably more mind-blowing than anything else. I mean, yes, the Drew Barrymore twist was huge, but when you find out it's him and Matthew Lillard, you're like, holy shit. How did we not see this?
Right. I wish that there was a little bit more of a motive for Stu.
Yeah.
Maybe something along the lines of him getting dumped by Casey Becker. Or, I mean, his girlfriend in the film was kind of a jerk to him, but still, there was but I mean, I love it. I watch it at least once a year, and I'll go back to it continuously for sure.
Well, the reason I think they have that split, or at least they talked about, I listened to some of the commentaries this week, is they talked about what's scarier, having a motive or not having a motive. And by having both characters, one with a strong motive, one with the not at all, they're kind of having the cake and eating it too, of having both scary things, whatever you find scariest, you can kind of latch on to.
Right.
Matthew Lillard was brilliant. I mean, he was so stupid, and you can see throughout when you watch it after knowing that he is one of the killers.
Yeah.
When you watch it again, you see how much he's enjoying, his character is enjoying, like messing with people and calling people suspects, and especially poor Randy.
Yeah. Now, even more terrifying, the second time around when they have Randy cornered in that video store. Holy shit, that's more tense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they redo the imagery of Skeet behind Matthew Lillard, kind of wrapping his arms around him in the exact same way at the end, where they're both kind of bloody and like on each other like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was also going to say with rewatch about how Matthew Lillard is kind of an idiot the whole time. One of the best parts that plays after watching it a few times is when they're all sitting together in the quad or whatever, and they're just talking about everything. And Matthew Lillard just goes, "I didn't kill anybody, man." And Skeet Ulrich looks at him with this look and says, "No one said you did." Like in that way. And like, I think that's like, give Skeet like some sort of award, because that look was like acting in the bag. Like that was just a great, like, you know, subtle, but like if you know what's going on, it's perfect.
Yeah. Now, I don't mean to jump ahead though, too, but I know in Scream 2, they did not give any of the cast members the final ends of the scripts because they wanted to keep it secret who the killer was. But they didn't do the same thing with 1, right? They both knew that they were going to be the killers.
I think so, because with Scream 2, what happened was they filmed that whole opening scene in the movie theater, and the internet was much more a thing then. So all of that was posted on the internet, and they kind of learned their lessons with Scream, because Scream, while being filmed, was getting spoiled. So they did have to start keeping things under wraps more and more with future films.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's definitely something that I feel like is more noticeable in 2 in that exact moment, and sort of the things we're talking about here. It feels like Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich both know, like, throughout the movie that they are the killer, and it's like, I'm going to still play this so like somebody who knows I've got my toe in something bad, but still kind of be like, you wouldn't suspect me. Why me? Whereas like, I feel like in the sequel, when you have like Timothy Olyphant, he looks like somebody who looks like, oh, I'm the killer. Okay. Lean into this now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels it's tighter and more planned in the first one, and in the sequels, they're just like, yeah, it's the other killer at that point. What do you want from me? You know?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the beginning of the second one because we get to see. Can we get into it?
Sure.
Sure, I just want to say Scream 1 MVP. I can't think of this. Oh, Henry Winkler.
Oh,
Apparently,
so good.
apparently he said that he'd be in the movie, but he originally didn't want to get credit because he didn't want to outshine the young celebrities.
Oh my God.
What a guy.
Everyone's like, oh, buddy, that's really nice, but I don't think you have to worry about it. We've got hot people on the front of this movie. No one's going to be like, Henry Winkler's in this?
Yeah. But you're happy when he's in it.
Hell yeah.
Especially now after watching Barry and you see what he's capable of, and you're like, whoa, okay. Like, he's got a dark side to him, and it's great. I wish we could do more roles like that.
Remember when he like puts on the mask? And like, I love that moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then he dies. Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's jarring, though, seeing the Fonz die, though, too. You're like, it's Fonzie. He's dead.
Well, for me, I never watched Happy Days. It's the weird coach from Waterboy. Which is another great
Yeah.
performance.
My God.
Yeah.
And then I will say, just so we can inject it through the other movies, that we also have the first use of Red Right Hand by Nick Cave, which is a song they use more and more throughout the movies. And
yeah.
I really like that jam. It's a tasty lick.
It is a good song. You know what? I feel like maybe we should drop that. We don't do that enough.
Yeah, drop it in.
I feel like Nick Cage?
Nick Cave.
Oh, right hand. Right hand.
Scream of the Champ franchise.
Scream. All right, here's a Red Right Hand.
where secrets lie in the border fires and the humming wires. Yeah, man, you know you're never coming back. Across the square, across the bridge, past the mills, past the stacks. On a gathering storm comes a tall, handsome man in a dusty black coat with a red right hand.
Kill me right now if that doesn't sound like True Blood. It's so innovative. The bass line, the little bell, the bum 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 bum. You know, it really is haunting.
When you came in, the air went out. Yes.
Gonna have to have Robbie back for the True Blood cast. A show I watched most of.
Same. God, I wanted that to be so good for so long. But yeah, I mean, oh, man, that tune really does set such a mood too. Whenever the needle drop comes in and you feel like everything's starting to move, and you're like, ooh, now it's really getting scary in this thing. I think the other thing I did want to make a mention for in one, Jamie Kennedy is great because we talked about him briefly, but man, even when, I mean, one, him calling out the rules of a horror movie
On the couch. Yeah, it's all good.
That's great.
But my favorite thing with him, though, too, is when he's alone on the couch and he's watching Halloween and he keeps saying, Jamie, turn around. And it's just like,
And his name's Jamie.
and it's like, could you hit this any more on the head? It's so good. And I mean, they have a great callback later on in the franchise, but I mean, we'll get to that. But it's just a moment that it's so good.
Yep, and layering in that Halloween score and the end like scenes of one with the score of Scream together is amazing.
I want to make a comment too about the combination, the diversity of how people died. You know, was very good. The garage door, the guy coming down the top of the van, you know, with the blood. It was just cinematically wonderful for all of those reasons. Now, the diversity of deaths, yes. Diversity of cast, non-existent.
Yeah.
And they came in hard with 2.
That's so funny.
You know,
It feels like
and there's
such
commentary about it too. You know, it's fascinating. But the knife through the stall door, I was like, am I scared? No, but I am bothered. Yeah. You know, what bothered me more was the next death in this loud screaming movie theater, which we've all been in before.
Yeah.
While also making commentary about making fun of itself.
Yeah.
The movie was just, we saw these people watching this movie that we fell in love with and reacting horribly to it. And that it makes fun of its audience in a way that's like, why are you enjoying this? And I liked that.
Yes, because they know what they're doing by they just know what they're doing by having that happen at the same time. Like, it's great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to wonder, were there people taking notes when on opening weekend and how audiences were reacting? Because there were things said that the characters were saying during the movie, like, run, bitch, you know, or I would have left. And also like, Star 69 him.
And up in Star 69 his ass.
I mean, you can't not be aware of some of that, right? Even if you're just watching with like family members, they're like, how come they don't just Star 69 him? Like, why don't they do that? Like, I think it's so brilliant. And I think two, it's not as good as one to me, but man, is it underrated? I feel like.
Yeah.
I think 2 has such Scream vibes in it, whether the story like holds up to 1. I think it feels so much like a Scream movie, and the fact that it takes place on a college campus gives it even more of that, you know, that feel, that time. I just love it.
It could happen to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But I think it really, where it got stronger, and I think I wasn't able to appreciate at the time because I went like 15, 20 years without seeing the sequel again. And I was like, man, with all the movies that came after it, all the horror movie sequels that I had seen since then, I was like, this thing nailed it. Like, it nailed it from the movies that came before it, and it nailed it for everything that came after it. I'm just like, it's brilliant. And I love the film club scene where they're all like talking about, and you've got like every like
in the classroom,
every
Joshua
WB,
Jackson.
Yeah.
Oh, Dawson's Creek.
Yeah. Well, you got like Joshua Jackson, you got Sarah Michelle Gellar, you got Timothy Oliphant, then, and like one of his like first big ones.
It's gotta be. Because I remember him, like, I forgot he was in Scream 2. I remember seeing Girl Next Door thinking that was like, oh, this is a new guy. But no, that's like almost 10 years later, I think.
Yeah, it's sometime after. It's at least a few years for sure. But I thought so too. I did totally forgot he was in the movie. And I'm like, Oliphant. And then to realize at the end, oh, it's him. But it's almost like it's tough too because you watch it and you know Oliphant is just somebody who can really bring the heat when he needs to, especially in a movie like Girl Next Door where he is menacing. I think even more menacing than he is in this one ultimately.
He's extremely frightening. But the scariest moment for me is by far having to crawl over Ghostface in the cop car.
Yes.
I vividly remember shaking in my seat because they go through this crash. Sydney and her roommate are in the back of this car, and the only way out is by crawling through into the front seat and then crawling over Ghostface, who has passed out because of the crash. That was the most petrifying thing I'd seen since Leprechaun.
And then she goes back.
I know.
Oh, God. Awful. And it's just like the minute she had to go back, you're like, this is it. You're done. Just to give some little background about too. So this released almost a year after the first one, which tells you how quick
they knew
the reception was going to be great. I mean, we talked about it, that it made a lot of money, and 2 got into production quickly and was out December 12th, 1997, December 20th for the year before. Also written by Kevin Williamson again and directed by Wes Craven. So they brought back the dream team here. So like Scream, the film features characters who are aware of the horror genre and the conventions of a horror sequel and mocking them. And I think, to your point though, Robbie, it is very big commentary about the audience of like horror movies and Scream in general. And that opening scene, I mean, it aged very well because I think one scene you have a couple of kind of prominent black actors too getting murdered like immediately. It's like, okay. But even more than that, man, it really gets into like film nerdom, and it's kind of a great setup piece for movies down the line that are very much like, I want to make the best Stab movie or Scream movie. We get the introduction of Stab in this movie, which is the movie within the movie that is based on the events of the first one, and then every ensuing sequel that comes after it, all the way up to Stab 8, which is just they're catching up. But as Fred mentioned too, so after that first part of the script leaked, they actually wrote a dummy script for Scream 2 and leaked that just to, they leaked a couple different versions of it to throw off fans that were trying to steal the script. And so they held back the last part of the script. And in the fake script, the ending was that Dewey was the killer, which it's like,
oh, okay. He's not smart enough for that.
I'm sorry, Sid. I don't know. I had to kill people. Is that okay?
After Gail dumped me, I just couldn't think it. So, yeah, because Kevin Williamson actually got interviewed recently and confirmed that was the case. So they leaked a fake ending just so they could start finding some of the sources too for who was leaking the script.
I want to see the Spotlight movie version of that.
Yeah,
just
right?
like sending out the leaked scripts trying to catch people.
It's very Empire Strikes Back of like them like, oh, we're gonna have out that Obi-Wan is killed Luke's dad, and it's like
I also love in the Stab movies, I think Luke Wilson is playing the Skeet Ulrich.
It's so good.
yes.
So good. I completely forgot, but I watched it and I was like, oh my God. And Tori Spelling as Sydney.
Which they paid off a joke from the original too. They're like, oh, I'll probably be paid by like Tori Spelling or somebody. And it's like, sure shit. I mean, this one, like the first one, was a financial success. Similar critical praise. Everybody was very happy with how it came together. And I mean, it definitely hit like all the vibes I think everybody was looking for in a sequel. I mean, like I said, from a quality standpoint, I would probably still say 1 is a little bit better, but honestly, I think 2 really surprised me with how much better it was. Everything I thought I remembered about 3 was actually into. And I was like, oh God, that's probably not a good sign.
The only thing that did not improve was Courtney Cox's hair. The red streaks, I was just like, come on.
But I
Like,
think it gets worse in the next one.
it does so much. But it wasn't great in the first, actually. Now that I think about it, yeah.
Yeah, because I think she's talked about it, how like the thing with Gail is like she is upscale, but she's also got tacky style, and it's kind of like this mix of that. And I think she knows what she's doing with those haircuts.
Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about Gail in this too. Not because it's not a big criticism of the character, but it's more just a criticism of like her thoughts on her role in this story. And I feel like it's something they've kind of uncovered a little bit, but she's very much somebody who's like, she like thinks she outright says in 4 or something like that.
Literally wrote the book on this.
Yeah, I literally wrote the book. I cracked the case. It's like, did you crack the case though, or did you just have things happen to you? Like nobody has solved who the killer was until the killer willingly reveals themselves.
Yeah, you thought it was Cotton when you walked up to that payphone.
Yeah.
And you met face to face with the killer.
I know. Cotton, the guy that she worked so hard to exonerate from the first one. But it was great seeing Liev Schreiber in this sequel.
I know.
too.
I love him.
I love him. They kept talking about him on the commentaries, and something that blew my mind. He is a big Dustin Hoffman guy, which I'm like, oh, that's why you sound like that.
Yeah. He does have a Dustin
He
Hoffman.
sounds like Dustin Hoffman a little bit.
Oh, he really does.
Now that you say it, you do hear it.
Yeah.
So the movie was set in 1998 and again focuses on Sydney. It's now she's a college student, and there at her college campus, a series of copycat crimes begin based on the Woodsboro murders from the previous movie, with the killer targeting people who have the same name as the murder victims from the previous movie. So that was supposed to be the connection as to why the 2 seemingly random students were killed in the opening at the theater. It's because they had, like, I think one of them had the name Casey or Becker or something like that. And I can't remember what the other one was named, but
Steve.
Steve, that's
I
right.
think Stevens, yeah.
And that was Casey's boyfriend, right?
Yeah, he's big and he plays football, and he's gonna kick your ass.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. Right. And 2, I mean, we mentioned a little bit of the cast before too, but it brings back Nev Campbell. We get back Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and then we have Laurie Metcalf, who we were talking about before we started podcasting. As
Cannot say enough about her.
she's like the low-key MVP of this.
Definitely.
Her eyeballs alone are frightening.
Yeah, she's got that constant like she walked in and found somebody like naked.
And it's Roseanne.
It's fun seeing her though play opposite of Gail or Courtney Cox, where she's supposed to kind of be like, oh, now I'm the reporter on the uptake, and just like does such a fun impression of her, knowing that she's totally full of shit and she's just doing this to fuck with her. And oh man, it's a great seeing them. Am I missing anybody in the cast?
Ellen DeGeneres' wife.
Yep.
Portia de Rossi is in this.
She is. She has one of the funniest lines, I think, in the movie, where she goes, "Hi, and I really mean that. Hi." And you think, based on the events of the first movie, that these 2 sorority girls are definitely going to get it. You know, you think, because of horror and the genre, that these 2 girls are definitely going to get murdered.
Absolutely.
And it was kind of a relief that they didn't, you know.
Right.
A lot of the men got it, you know, and I was happy to see that.
Yeah, I was trying to think who the other actress was, or who the other sorority sister was. It's like always with
It's
Portia.
It
someone
looks like
else.
Denise Richards, but it's not.
It's
Go ahead. I don't know.
no. The name of the actress is Rebecca Gayheart.
Yep.
And the reason I recognized her because
That's my drag name, too, by the way.
Rebecca. Yeah. That's a great name, actually. But she was the killer in Urban Legend. If you've seen that.
was.
And I was gonna bring that up later because I think that movie kind of rules.
That
Urban
does
Legend.
rule. She wears the hood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has
With
the
the fuzzy, yeah. She started that trend.
It's got Joshua Jackson in it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I did forget some very key members of the cast though too. Jerry O'Connell, who shows up as the boyfriend.
I think I love you. It's not what life is made of.
Speaking of Top Gun, yeah, oh, good.
They said that was the hardest scene to edit because he sang it in different key every single time.
He was a horrible singer. It was so bad, but I did love it when he came down shirtless on the cross.
Oh,
that was nice.
Man.
I was brought back to my Catholic upbringing.
And that music during that whole thing was done by Danny Elfman.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Did not know that either.
I did love that Sydney was going to school for theater.
Yeah.
I thought that was wonderful. And I got a huge laugh again when we find out who the killers are, and Sydney is trying to scare Laurie Metcalf by shaking the storm. The storm
Yeah.
that's going to stop her. It's like, just run. There are fire exits in the theater.
Oh. And it's so funny that they put her in a play where they have masked people all around her with knives. It's like, are we thinking with our heads here?
Now, realistically speaking, what human could go through that again after the trauma they've been through?
Yeah.
At what point don't you just go become a philosophy major instead? You know what I mean? When you're in that sort of like re-envisioned, well, I get it. It's for the film.
Yeah. But yeah, even still, it's
Right.
like
They have glow stick knives with these masks, and it's just like, I see what you're doing.
yeah. But yeah, other notable people in the cast, though, besides some of those people we had Elise Neal, who is also in Hustle and Flow, if you guys have seen that movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good movie. She plays Sydney's best friend, Hallie. Or Haley? I can't remember now. Yeah, okay, you watched it recently. Jada Pinkett Smith is in the beginning, and so is Omar Epps, which I was trying to determine, were they big at that time?
Pretty big.
Jada was.
Yeah, Jada was for sure. I'm trying to think. Omar Epps, because he's in Juice, I believe. He's either in Juice or New Jack City. The two movies I get confused. But he was big in that, and then Jada was in like a bunch of different stuff before then. I think she was in Malcolm X before that.
Yeah.
Isn't she in that?
I think you might be right. Yeah, because I know it was like right before Omar Epps when he was
Get
doing...
my wife's name.
It would have been cool if it was Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith in the beginning. See, I love Omar Epps, but that would have been crazy.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah.
You know, and I miss the star-studded names. That was pretty good. It was definitely good but like when you get into 4, it's like Hayden
Panettiere,
who was in Heroes. She wasn't a huge name, but we also had Kristen Bell, which is a good name, but it wasn't mind-blowing, you know.
and Sookie.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to say, they picked up a lot of people from like network dramas again at that time.
Yeah.
And like the OC is big in 4 as well. Jada, I did not see her in Malcolm X, but she was in a couple other big movies. She was in like a Tales from the Crypt movie. But this was pre-Omar Epps doing Love and Basketball and House, obviously. A lot of people love House.
Yep.
The other person, though, I'll mention, we do get some more movie within the movie, and we get Heather Graham as Casey Becker.
Oh, yes, yes.
Which is another just a stack cast. I feel like once they saw the first one was good, everybody's like, I just want a bit role. Just a bit. Even if I'm only on for a minute, I'll do it.
Yeah, which we see in the next one in 3 for sure.
Should we just skip 3? A lot of people did.
I think we do have to talk about 3, unfortunately.
I don't think we'll talk long.
Yeah, so 3 came out on February 4th, 2000. So this time it took about a couple of years before this movie came to fruition. And like the previous entries, it was also written by Williamson, directed by Wes Craven. I keep repeating this because it does change at some point. But they had, or I guess Williamson was unable to formulate a complete script because he was committed to Teaching Mrs. Tingle, if anybody's ever seen that. Mm-hmm. So
did you know that film the name of that film changed because it was originally called Killing Mrs. Tingle, but Columbine had just happened.
Oh, wow.
If it wasn't Columbine, it was another recent shooting, but no, I think it was. And so that's why they had to change it to Teaching.
Oh, interesting. I feel like I might have heard that a long time ago, but like, it's crazy to even think that's almost 25 years old now.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Right.
Isn't that Helen Mirren?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Pretty cool. That's it. I don't have anything else to contribute.
I've
never seen it. I think I'd love it because it has
Is
these
Joshua
vibes,
Jackson
right?
in that too? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
This conversation's already better than the whole season, movie, or third movie of Scream.
Scream 3. Yeah.
Is Teaching Mrs. Tingle better than Scream 3?
I mean,
Yes.
Okay, good. It might be something. I might watch that tonight.
there we go.
Didn't that have, if not Joshua Jackson, didn't it have Katie Holmes, wasn't it? Or, well, I remember
It's two girls and a
feeling
guy,
nostalgic.
right?
It is okay. It's here because we're not going to be able to move
It's
on.
a murderer's
It's
row.
true.
It is Katie Holmes in it. It is Helen Mirren. It's
No idea it was Helen Mirren.
yeah.
Oh, Mirren's in that.
Jeffrey Tambor apparently is in this.
Great.
Oh,
But yeah, the other two like main characters are Barry Watson and Marissa Coughlin.
I thought there was like a young guy hottie in there too, like a Josh
Ryan
Hartnett.
Felipe, or
Yeah.
Thought
It was Joshua Hartnett.
Josh
was it not?
Hartnett?
I know
I mean,
it was.
that's
'cause
a fact.
We called him Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
I don't.
Still do. Oppenheimer, he was looking good.
Yeah.
I don't see Hartnett in this cast.
Ah,
All right,
damn.
guys, we got to talk about 3.
Oh, fine.
So, because Williamson was finishing up that script, he was replaced by a guy named Aaron Kruger, who finalized. I said that with a lot of stank on it. Finalized the script. Yeah, Kruger. Think about
Freddy
that.
Krueger.
Yeah, maybe he took a slash into this film. So he basically finished the script based on a lot of ideas that Williamson had come up with. Scream 3, obviously less successful than the previous two installments. People noticing that film had kind of become almost too much of a meta commentary, maybe a little too parody-ish. The movie within the movie that we're following is kind of crazy because that's kind of the whole plot. It's set in 2000. And it focuses on Sydney, who is at the set of Stab 2, or is it 3?
It's 2 or 3.
Yeah, and basically she is placed with this whole little retcon story about her mother is involved, was like an actress in Hollywood, and
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of like,
Cool scenes.
Sydney wants to be an actress. Like, maybe it's in the blood, in the DNA. But yeah, and it's set up the whole nostalgia of the set design, and but then it gets weird. The half brother, that's not enough of a motive. But he also wanted to make a ton of money, right? And these deaths would have done that. So I bought into it, but I didn't watch it again.
And the thing about the third one is it's kind of down arrival with a really bad opening scene. It's just
Oh, remind me,
Liev
'cause it's bad.
Schreiber fighting LA traffic to get home to his like trophy girlfriend since becoming famous, Christine, named after Christine, the John Carpenter movie. But that's the opening. And I'm like, I'm getting off the 494. I'll be there soon.
I don't even remember.
It's bad.
he's got like his own like talk show. He got like a Fox News talk show.
100% cotton.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that is good.
Yeah.
I will say that should have just been the whole movie.
Yeah.
Man.
There are some bits of this movie that are okay, but overall, it's not a good movie.
Like the Parker Posey and Patrick Warburton combo is pretty great.
Yeah,
But-
the cast in this movie is maybe the best part of it. We had, who you just mentioned there, Patrick Warburton, Parker Posey, Liev Schreiber's back for a minute. Patrick Dempsey, a young Patrick Dempsey is the detective in this. He's
Emily Mortimer.
Yep, she's like plays Sydney in the movies. You have Jenny McCarthy, who fortunately dies early. And then we have, I think, a guy who got stuck with kind of a crap role, Scott Foley, who ends up being the killer, the only
Wait a minute.
killer.
Wait a minute. When you said the actress that played Sydney, I think I remember this. Wasn't there a commentary about her sleeping
Yes.
with somebody for the role?
Yep.
And wasn't this produced by Weinstein?
Yes.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Weinstein's got his gross fingers all over this series, sadly.
That's just crazy.
Well, and you also think the person who spoke out against him, Rose McGowan, screamed.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why this movie has a lot of bad DNA. with
Wonder
Harvey
if
Weinstein.
maybe she was talking to some people behind the scenes, like maybe you could sneak this into a script, give old Harvey a little setup right there. Dion Richmond is also in this. He's one of the prominent characters. Not really. He gets like a front poster look, but he does not get the role that really supports him.
I remember him less than some of the characters in 2 that are less peripheral.
I know. It's the franchise not serving people of color very well.
It feels very 2000s TV cocaine-y to me, the third one.
The chase scenes throughout the house were kind of cool.
Yep.
I remember thinking they made sense. And it was slightly thrilling, but it wasn't enough for me to think that it deserved to be a Scream movie.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just...
But Jay and Silent Bob are in it.
Yeah. Fun cameo there. But ultimately more fun than Jay and Silent Bob. We did get Lance Henriksen as the director of the movie. Or the producer?
He's either the producer.
Foley was the director.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so you have Bishop from Aliens as the producer, which is a very interesting to see him do something different that's not like, I'm here to help you, or Ripley. And then the other really random cameo in this is Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Like just hanging out in the back of the room. And like she was like, I think she was like, I was up for Princess Leia and I didn't get it. It's like, okay. It's funny. We get a terrible, weird interlude with Jamie Kennedy having filmed like more rules for like threequels, and he has his sister we didn't know about who comes and drops off the video.
Who comes back in 5.
Yeah. Jeez Louise.
It's so corny.
Heather Matarazzo.
Yeah.
So much going on. They really wanted 2 more movies.
It's so corny. It's like he's like saying like I slept with so and so, and like you have like David Arquette responding. He's like so and so. He's like yeah, so and so. Shut up. And it's like the videotapes. They're having a conversation. I'm like this is so stupid. Which Jamie Kennedy unfortunately I think died because all the nerds kind of like saw themselves in him and and they're like the nerd didn't get Sydney. It's like come on you guys.
He never does.
Kennedy is great in this series, but it's like his amount of time on screen is the perfect amount. It got too much by 3. I'd be like, when is Randy gonna die here?
The casting of his sister is so good. I know we'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the future films. But yeah.
Yeah.
3 was 3.
3 was 3. That's a great way to put it.
3 was 3. Yeah, really, like you mentioned, just a bad twist. Like it's
just the Jar Jar Binks of these movies.
It is. I mean, I just want to talk about it very briefly. The fact that like we're supposed to understand that he was a love child of Sydney's mother from her days in Hollywood. He was the one who went and kind of like put Billy and Stu onto like, oh, you should like go after this woman. Oh man, they like I kind of taught him how to kill, and it's like there's a reason nobody pretends that happened. Like,
right? Yeah.
Like no, Billy and Stu acting on their own, or however they did. It's garbage.
Yep, I don't buy it.
Don't believe that person has killed a person too.
No.
Right? There's that. Just not. You're too much Freddie Prinze Jr. You're too just, yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. So moving on to 4. I mean, can we agree? Is 3 the worst of the franchise?
Yes. Yes, and 4 is not far behind.
Yeah.
I don't like. I'm glad I'm in a room with people who don't like 4 because a lot of people like 4.
Let me just say it because we're all maybe thinking it. The problem with 4 is that we have these 6'3" masked killers that become 5'11" at best once they're unmasked. I just hate it. There are these looming figures that all of a sudden are these losers.
Yeah.
These twerps that we have this what's her name?
Emma Roberts?
It's perfect. What's the lead?
Anna Kendrick?
Oh.
We have this Anna Kendrick wannabe, and we have this must be nephew of some rich guy with long hair. I don't know his name.
Oh, he's the Culkin.
He's the third Culkin brother.
Oh, he's again.
See, that's the problem. Wrong Culkin.
He's 3 is what he is.
We needed a Kieran Culkin, maybe.
If we had Kieran Culkin in this, I feel like it would be.
Of course he's famous. Of course he's a Culkin. Jeez Louise.
He's the kid from Signs.
Yeah, and Sydney's cousin. Okay, she wants attention. boo. I don't know.
Well, that was my thing with 4 is that actress, Emma Roberts, has had a career of being the like nervy, mean friend in movies. So I remember watching 4, and Emma Roberts is like kind of supposed to be the new Sydney, and I'm like, no, this girl's evil.
You don't like her.
I've seen enough seasons of American Horror Story at this point to know I don't like this person.
And there's enough stories from American Horror Story set to prove that she is a mean girl.
Yes, exactly.
I will say I like that they saw their friend getting murdered from across through the window and couldn't do that is always frightening for me when you see something that you can't control.
Yeah.
We see it actually a lot in each of them.
Scream 2 has a good one,
we see Courtney sees David Arquette it's
Through the window,
through the window, yeah.
Which is a great death scene.
The problem with that scene though is that Courtney's like screaming and there's no way she can get hurt.
Right.
Do we ever see Neve Campbell scream?
I think in the first one, maybe.
But
Never like really just belt a scream though. No, I don't think so.
It's always like Dewey, or
She exclaims.
yeah.
She's like, get out of here.
Yeah, we see Courtney scream a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
She can scream.
But I did like Hayden Panettiere, the hero, the cheerleader.
Of the movie.
Yeah, she is the strongest actor in the film.
Yep.
For sure. Dewey gets dopey. We're introduced to the deputy sheriff with the crazy eyes. She's the red herring. Is that the word?
Yeah.
She's the red herring kind of because she remembers Sydney from high school, so we automatically think that it's going to be her.
Yep.
She is frightening looking. She makes bad lemon bars. I remember the weirdest things. She has a crush on Dewey. There's a motive there. But even the script is bad. Mm-hmm. The script is just so inconsiderate, and you see Courtney hating the lines.
Yeah.
You can see Neve Campbell that they don't like. Neve Campbell, you see Sydney now, an author. Mm-hmm. She's doing press conferences. That's not the Sydney we know. Right. Sydney wouldn't do that. Sydney would
helping people with trauma.
Yes, see, she's a social worker. She's somebody who's it's not.
That was one of the best parts of 3. I was like, this is exactly what this character would be doing at this stage. It's like, I'm going to help people who can't help themselves because they're in bad situations. But then all of a sudden it's like, well, actually, I'm going to take the narrative. I'm going to write my story. I'm like,
all right, because in 3 she was answering hotline, right
in the mountains,
yes.
Which was like a great space. It almost would have made more sense in 3 to have left her there and been like, no, Sydney's off the map. She's not letting anybody come after her because every time she comes into the story, somebody wants to kill her.
Right. Right. And maybe she'll come back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 4 feels dated because, also, I mean, I love Kevin Williamson stuff in the 2000s at the time of Scream, even his bad movies like Curse. I'm pretty sure he wrote Urban Legend. So, I love this stuff. But later he kind of did a lot of TV, like the show The Killing. And I think the Scream 4 script feels so dated. Yeah. And sadly, that could be because it's the old team coming back. Wes Craven's a lot older and he hasn't made movies in a while. And so it has a lot of those issues. I think it feels like a Scream movie. It just feels like a bad Scream movie.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking after the horrific and after 3 and then toward the end of 4, I was just like, they can all die. Yeah. I have lost interest. Dewey isn't even charming anymore. And I'm not rooting for Sydney. She's become Gail Weathers, Mm-hmm. I felt so disconnected.
Yeah, it really just felt untrue to some of the characters, and it was right at the height of when remakes were really starting to get good. Mm-hmm. And it felt like they were trying to make commentary about remakes, but I think even then it kind of failed. But I will say, and we'll put a pin in it for later, I think this movie walked so 5 could run.
Definitely.
And I can't wait to talk a little bit about 5.
I'll just say, final thing with 4 why it's not good is the characters aren't likable, which we've kind of said, but I think for the fine point, I don't like any of the new characters in that. Not even Allison Brie, who I love.
No, right. Yeah. What I woulda, coulda, shoulda for 4 would have been learning more about Sydney's mom through her sister.
Yeah.
I think that all we kind of hear a little bit at the, about her scars, about losing her sister through that. But I think that we could have learned so much more about Maureen Prescott. And
Yes.
that, because we care, because Sydney cares so much about her mom and that traumatic loss, and her dad, who we don't see again since one, right?
He goes on a lot of business trips.
Yeah.
Which is the one joke in Scary Movie that they do really well is like her dad's just like a drug dealer. It's super blatant.
He shows up for a hot minute in 3, and then that's the
Okay.
last we see of him.
He brings her some groceries or something.
Yeah. So just to put a pin in that too, Kevin Williamson did not write Urban Legend, but he did write I Know What You Did Last Summer
that was
and
I still
The Faculty.
know. Oh,
The Faculty rules.
Yeah,
And-
that was Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, it was. And he was a writer on Dawson's Creek. So he really was capturing all those, put the hot kids front and center on the poster stuff.
Which I think is the secret juice to a Scream movie. They think it's the horror. They think it's like the meta-ness. I think it's that injection of that Dawson's Creeky melodramaticness that people like loved at the time.
Yeah.
Speaking of hot kids, there is a moment in 4 where the cop is like talking about the girl that's just about to get murdered. This high school girl that's like, oh, she's going back home. She must live next door. She can live next door to me anytime. And it's like, you're gross.
What the
I
fuck?
hope you die.
Was Anthony Anderson or Adrian Brody who said it?
I don't remember. But yeah. Geez.
Oh, no, it's Adam Brody in this.
Oh, Adam Brody. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Adrian Brody would have been
Adrian
funny.
Brody would also have been on point, though. Just a little backstory or development, because I think this kind of even goes into why Scream 4 turned out the way it did. It was not a movie that got off the ground very soon. I think it got punted down the line when 3 really didn't hit. And so it was like July 2008. They had announced they started developing Scream 4. Once again, bringing back Williamson and Craven, but it wasn't released until April 15th, 2011. Part of the reason was they had disagreements with a producer, Kathy Conrad, who was like on the first 3 Scream films, was cut out and sued the Weinstein Company for $3 million, allegedly that they violated an agreement with her company, which is called Cat Entertainment, that had the rights to produce all the Scream films. So right out the gate, we're already in like logistics and court dramas with behind the scenes. And then they finally had settled out of court in 2011. But I mean, it took a while to even get Wes Craven to get convinced to come back, because he was like, I'll do it if there's a good enough script, but I want Williamson to write the script. And he was like, well, I'm busy. I got Dawson's Creek. No, I think it was done by that point. But
He's got The Killing or The Following,
yeah,
the Kevin Bacon show.
I did watch that. That was a little disappointing ending there too. But the movie takes place 10 years after 3. Sydney comes back. She's a writer, comes back home. And on the last stop of her book tour, she encounters another set of murders. Shocking that back in Woodsboro, somebody wants to kill Sydney. And we have, as we mentioned, her cousin, played by Emma Roberts. We have film geek, played by Rory Culkin. I almost said Kieran, who, again, would have been a major step up for this.
Yeah. I guess he wasn't available.
No, I think he probably read the script and was like, I got better things to do. I got Succession in like 10 years, you guys.
he had done Scott Pilgrim at this point, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it was like in production, probably. That might have been the reason he turned it down. They're like, let's get another Culkin. Macaulay's not doing movies anymore. Yeah, we mentioned Hayden Panettiere's in this. We have Allison Breeze in a bit part. We have, her name is Marielle Jaff. We have Marley Shelton, who has got the crazy eyes that you mentioned as the deputy. We have the other film geek. What's his name?
The Frankie Muniz looking kid.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I just don't know his name.
I know. I'm trying to find him on the list, but we also had the boyfriend Trevor, the
that has
ex-boyfriend.
the video camera on his head.
Yeah, the ex-boyfriend played by Nico Tortorella. I thought I had recognized him from stuff, but I didn't. He played Trevor, who was like Emma Roberts' like character's ex-boyfriend, and they're like, I read that they spent so much time trying to make him a red herring, they actually had to cut material out because they're like, it's gonna look way too much like he should have been the killer.
Yeah, he feels like he's just there to be a suspect in the movie.
Yeah, really,
I would have
he is.
preferred him to be the killer, actually. I was.
The other film geek was Eric Knudsen is the actor's name, who is also in Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, he's the little feeble guy, right?
No, he's Crashing the Boys. They have like the 3-second song. Yeah.
I thought that was Frankie Muniz.
Oh yeah, no, but he looks like Frankie Muniz for sure.
I thought that was I thought that was a cameo of Frankie Muniz in Scott Pilgrim for all time.
Yeah. But we do have Sydney's aunt, played by Mary McDonnell, who is a actress that has come up now multiple times on this podcast due to we covered Battlestar Galactica, and I remember she came up the other day, like something else we were talking about.
Mary McDonnell. Oh,
she's the president on Battlestar. Oh man, I know. If I looked it up now, I'm like, I'll probably find it.
She like the mom in Donnie Darko, I think.
She is. You're right.
There we go. Then I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I know.
Your son just called me a bitch. You're not a bitch. You're bitching. I've seen that movie too many times, and it's not good.
One day we'll talk about that. Yeah, I don't know. And then the bit cameos, the beginning did not age well at all.
No,
because like Kristen Bell is probably the one that is like, oh sure, right there she is,
right.
But then it's all just a bit to like play off of. Oh, there's been stab movies since the last one, and they're all just going off nothing.
Yeah, and I think they knew that we enjoyed them making fun of themselves, but they did it too far. They did it to the point where we felt made fun of. Like after the second attempt, we see the Kristen Bell one was like, I don't even want to watch this. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be another end of a stab. Like I just I just felt used, a little bit, and I was already out, and after the failure of 3, you would think that they would try to entice us back in, but they know that I'm going to be in that line to see that movie regardless. So
yeah, I mean, I did see Scream 4 in theaters, I'm pretty sure, but I just remember coming out being like,
yeah,
it's not as bad as 3. It's just not anywhere near the good ones of the series.
Right.
Should we talk about 5, though?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah.
We have another big break, and then...
Yeah. Billy. We get a little bit of
Guess
Billy back.
So good again.
The production on this is kind of crazy because originally, obviously, Wes Craven wanted to come back for 5. So 2011, he confirmed that he was contracted to work on a 5th and 6th installment, and that if the 4th one was a success, that would obviously go into production. When the 4th was not a success, Williamson also confirmed that he had contractual obligations for 4 and 5, but when that didn't happen and the 4th one didn't do well, basically they just didn't renew them. So those guys were kind of left in limbo, wondering what the heck's going to go on. And in May 2011, we have our boy Harvey Weinstein. He confirmed that a sequel was possible, but that because 4 did not perform well, he was just happy with the gross and kind of basically to make out with what they had gotten. But in February 2012, when he was asked about it, basically said, no, we're not doing a sequel. So essentially, that left the movie in limbo all the way until Wes Anderson died in 2015.
Wes Anderson died?
Oh, I'm sorry. Wes Craven. Wes Craven died in 2015.
As long as Hans Christian Andersen's still alive.
I'm okay. So I think when Wes Craven passed away, everyone thought, that's it. There's no more. He is Scream. We're not going to do another one. Until 2019 rolls around. Many years later, it was reported that Blumhouse was interested in reviving the series and that Jason Blum was working on making a Scream reboot. So in November 2019, they acquired the rights to Scream, or Spyglass Media did, not Blumhouse. And in March 2020, it was announced that Matt Bettinelli help me with that, Fred, if you know.
Oh, I don't know. I just know it's 2 guys and they have like a special name for their writing group.
Yeah, and Tyler Gillette would direct the 5th installment coming off of their recent movie, which was called Ready or Not. Have you guys seen that?
No.
I never saw Ready or Not.
Very fun. And And when I saw that, I'll say this: when I saw the Scream 5 was gonna be directed, I'm like, okay, maybe it's got a chance, because Ready or Not is, I mean, it's also kind of playing on like the haunted house trope a little bit, but it's all about like kind of like a spiritual like game and being played and all that. But basically, the idea was, I felt like it was a very fresh take on a horror movie. So they had it, and then Kevin Williamson came back as an executive producer, but the movie was written by James Vanderbilt, not Vanderbeek, and Guy Busick. And the movie takes place 25 years after the original Woodsboro murders, once again returning to Woodsboro, where another ghost face has appeared and has begun targeting a seemingly random group of teenagers who are somehow linked to the original killings, though. And that's where our scene is set when we find out that it is... her name is Sam Carpenter, who is, as Robby teased, the not illegitimate daughter. Or is she illegitimate because she was born out of wedlock?
So Sam is, well, and oh yeah, I guess she is a Snow. I guess she's a Billy's daughter. Yeah, but yeah, Billy's daughter, and her sister that's not Billy's daughter. And we see Billy's... Wait, did we get a stab? We don't see any sort of stab references in 5.
In like the opening?
Right.
No.
It's
just the Jenna Ortega.
Yeah, they get me back in right away. I'm like, this is real. I'm committed and I'm listening.
Yeah.
I went to it alone because I'm a big boy now.
Yeah.
You know, and didn't need a hand to hold. And I was hooked. It was our first time seeing somebody not die after the opening,
right?
You know, and it wasn't on a highway, or you know, whatever. It was. We see they make it through, which makes it questionable. You know, is this going to be a killer? We've seen a lot of sibling and a lot of family members being the murderers because of what, jealousy, because that's enough of a motive. But so she's a suspect, clearly. She's in the hospital, and the older sister Sam is hiding that she is Billy's daughter. And she works at a movie theater with this, I think, in one of my top killers, in my opinion, but we'll get into that later. I really like this guy, and I've seen him in a few things, but there's just something about him that you want to like, because he has that Joshua Jackson, he has that Savage Brother energy, that is that boy next door. He's Corey Matthews on Boy Meets World. He's a Randy a bit, you know what I mean? But he has a bit of an edge that we see from Billy a little bit too. He was a great amalgamation of the guys that we liked and that the franchise made us fall in love with. And that was why I bought into it. At that point, because of the way that they wrote his lines and their casting, because of that alone, the motive for me was irrelevant.
Yeah. He is very good. And are you familiar with the actor?
But remind me how I know him, please.
So Jack Quaid is the name, and he was on The Boys.
Oh, that's right. Yes, The Boys. Do you do an episode on The Boys?
We haven't done The Boys.
If you want to do The Boys, we'll
wait.
bring it back.
There you go. Robby, we're doing The Boys.
You know, he's
Be Pride Month.
Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's kid.
Of course. He's the third McCulkin.
Yeah. But like, I think of Nepo babies. One, he's never very hourly like identified as a Nepo baby. And I think he's very good. Like,
yeah.
Like, I'm like, you can keep giving him roles because he's excellent in everything. But he's outstanding in this. I think The Boys was the one thing I knew him from coming in. And I was like, oh, it's Stewie. Like, he ain't nobody. He's just the guy. And he sells it so
yeah, he's
well.
good.
What they tried to do in 4 with the ex-boyfriend or whatever, they killed it. They killed it.
The only thing I did not think needed to happen was the inhaler bit. and how he slowly pulls it out of his pocket. I didn't think this would work. It's like I wasn't thinking about how you got them there. Like it was just, it didn't need to happen. But I thought the performances, the stabbing of Sam is so good. And the little moments with Billy it was so nostalgic. And so to be back at that house, it was what we loved. They got me back in. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I wasn't gonna see 5 until I saw reviews, and I just saw people were like, "This is really good," and then I went and saw it, and it blew my mind. I was like, "This is hidden."
So wait, who? So the deputy sheriff from 3,
Yeah.
no 4, is in this, and So I thought we were going to see a gay character in this series in 5, because I don't think we had yet. Was the McCulkin? No, he was straight because he liked Hayden Panettiere.
His buddy in 4 claims to be gay when he's dying because one of their rules is like, if you're gay, you don't die in a movie.
That's right. That's right. I thought that the deputy's son was going to be a gay character, but just necessarily maybe wasn't. But we see a guy in a shower scene, but then what blew my mind was the movie was screwing with us because they must have done somewhere between 10 and 12 door closes in a row with this guy, and we think the killer's going to be behind one of them. It got annoying, but like I didn't stop smiling, and we don't see that happen. Instead, it happens kind of in broad daylight.
Yeah.
The ghost face kills the mom right outside, and that to me was just like, I don't know if it was nostalgia, but it felt so similar to It Could Happen to Me.
Yeah.
Because all it would take is for just a moment of time where neighbors are not looking. Like when Walter White picks up the guy from the basement walking down the street in the middle of the street, who eventually just runs into a tree running away from him.
Yeah.
There are moments where neighbors aren't looking out their windows,
right,
and things like this do happen. But I wish that I would have loved the secondary characters a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like the archetype of the jock. I think he's handsome. I think that's about it. But Randy's sister's super cool. I love that actress.
Right.
Yeah.
What's her name again? Do we know?
She's from Yellow Jackets, right? Isn't she on Yellow Jackets?
Well,
and Girls.
Okay, so Randy's sister was in 3. She brought the videotape. It's her kids. They're the twins. And so the jock is one of them. And then the sister is in Yellow Jackets. And I think you might be right. She is on Girls. The actress's name is
Martha Meeks.
Jasmine Savoy Brown. But yes, Martha Meeks is the mom.
Oh,
I thought that was Heather Matarazzo.
Yeah, Heather Matarazzo is Randy's sister from 3. And then we bring her back, and her kids, are... Yeah, which, I mean, they're 2 actors of color, which is like, this movie went out of its way to be like, we're not just casting white people anymore. In fact, the white people are the bad people.
Yeah. I did like the kid with the blonde hair in the kitchen scene, which I got to say there was a post-it note saying lemons bars in the fridge.
Yeah.
Oh, good guy.
So good.
His name's Wes.
Wessex, he's, and then, which I think was right, a nod to Wes Craven. And then, obviously we have the main sisters are played by Jenna Ortega, and I feel like everybody knows her now.
Yeah.
And Melissa Barrera, who was in
The Heights.
In the Heights.
The Heights, that's right.
Fantastic singer, dancer, actress. Like she carried a lot of that film. That character does, but her delivery is great. Very happy to see her as in a dramatic role like this. I was hooked with her. I really liked her a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so you have 2 Latina actresses playing like essentially the main characters of this movie, which definitely spins it on its head. Then you had, I think her name is Mickey Madison, who plays the friend Amber.
Yeah, which I will say I suspected her right from the get-go because of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
She's one of the Manson family. Yeah.
Which she gets set on fire in both movies, which is pretty great.
And she's also like 5'10".
Yeah.
It's a 6'6" ghost race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So funny. But yeah, I think, she's good. But man, what's so good throughout this movie is that there are a lot of breadcrumbs. So when I first saw this, you were asking, like, did you guys see it? And I was like, I saw it because of Fred. Was like, oh yeah, I heard there's good reviews. I thought it was so meta when I first watched it. And I think what I missed the context of was how meta all the rest of the story was too. Because it had been so long since I had seen 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And I'm like, all right, what are we doing here? This is just hitting over the head. But coming back and watching all of them like in a row and then getting to 5, I was like, oh, wow. Okay, actually, they're doing some really interesting stuff here. And I gained a whole new appreciation for the movie and everything it was doing. I like that Sydney and Dewey and Gail are so much smarter. It's like, why were they not like this in 3 and 4?
Well, and Dewey and Gail do not belong together.
Yeah.
It's not because of status. It's because they were just brought together because of circumstance and trauma. And that was it. Dewey is not intelligent. He is not on the level of Gail. Gail deserved better. I really liked that Dewey was still sad about it. She was the one that got away. We had that great moment in the trailer with these superfluous characters that they really wanted us to love. But we got to say goodbye to Dewey. I don't think that it did enough justice because, but he had to go.
Yeah.
Right. And it was kind of heroic how he went, and I was okay with that for that reason.
I mean, if Randy was going to die after that amount of stabbing into Dewey needed to have died too.
Yeah.
Especially because he was already like pretty stabbed already. Like he had nerve damage. But I gotta say, on the rewatch, I hadn't seen it since theaters. I watched last night. I had the place to myself. I had made myself a couple drinks, and when
Did you make yourself popcorn like Drew Barrymore?
I thought about it, but I only had it in the bag, and I was like, unless I can cook it on the stovetop, I'm not doing it. But I was watching, and when they had their scene together, Gail and Dewey, I was getting emotional. I was like, this is hitting like those scenes in The Force Awakens with Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Like it's giving me those vibes right now. And like, I agree there was stuff that's not earned, but it was hidden for me.
The music was good in 5. The music was good in 5 and 6 again.
Very good.
Well, they bring back that Dewey theme, which is from Broken Arrow, the doom, boom, doom, doom.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. You know what else they do with sound that is crazy? It's the shing. Every time they just reveal the knife. That's not normal, but it gets me.
Yeah, I love
like,
noises like that.
Yeah, you're on edge immediately when you hear that. I just like the way that they gave. I'm glad you brought Force Awakens because I felt like this was like his like Han Solo type thing, and it's a very similar role. Where it's like the minute that they walk in, like Sam and whatever her boyfriend's name is, well, Jack Quaid and Melissa Barrera, and he's like, "How long you known this guy for? What do you know about him?" Like it's like is he somebody you trust? And it's like immediate. I'm like, God, fucking finally! Like it's like he's like, I have been through this 4 times before. I can tell you exactly like what the beats are. And I love when Gail and Sydney are walking up to Stu's house at the end, or Stu's old house, which was bought by Amber's family, and. She comes out, like Amber comes out, Mickey Madison. She's like, "Oh God, I've been stabbed." And they go, "What do you think, trap?" Like, it's obvious. It's like it's just good to see people who have actually gone through this before be like, "Yes, I know exactly what you're doing right now. You're not fucking with me." Like,
The other thing about 5, which I'm not a gore person, but I gotta say, I kind of got down with the gore and kills in 5 because they're gnarly, but they're done well. So I'm like, not as much like, ew. I'm just like, oh shit, you're going for it. Like knives through the throat where they, they did the makeup where they like, made up part of his face so they could put a knife through there and make it look real. Like that stuff was visceral and scary. And I thought added like a level that wasn't necessarily there before.
Yeah, everything just felt fresh again with this movie.
It felt like they were doing things that, going back to Billy having sex with Sydney, it felt like they were doing things again that were just wrong. You know what I mean? That things that go against our values, things that go against the things that we like hospitals are sacred places, so that felt wrong, which was good. Theaters in college are not really like sacred places, so seeing death there is like, well, it's death of a salesman, or like, no, that's a dumb joke. Bad dumb joke.
I laughed.
but it got to us at our core, because we're kind of getting more and more numb with how easily we get information, but it got me. And I think part of it too, the introduction of more characters of color and seeing them succeed, it was good. It felt more realistic.
It was a legitimately shocking twist at the end when you do find out it's Jack Quaid and he's in cahoots with Mickey Mouse. I think when the character Amber reveals it, you're like, kind of makes sense. Like, throughout the movie, whenever she calls, like, she's texting Jenna Ortega in the very first scene, and it's like, they tell you right there. It's like he's fucking with her, like as somebody who's in cahoots. And then, like, even when Sam gets a call in the hospital, the caller, I noticed, said it was like, maybe Amber so and so, and I'm like, they're literally telling us it's her, like, and you're so caught up in everything else going on. You're like, who could this be?
Right?
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Sam gets attacked in the hospital. That's crazy. There's so much security. There's so much that was like frightening. That really, you want to feel safe in a hospital.
Okay, but one thing that happened in 4 and 5.
Oh no,
where is the hospital staff? There's like one person, like,
for real. Yeah,
in a stretch of rooms. That's what, like, my fiance and I just kept talking about this as we're watching it. She's like, "Where are all the staffers? Why is nobody coming out of their room?" I mean, maybe they put them on like an emptier floor, but even then, I'm just like, yeah, that's the one weird thing. But I think to use it as a setting though is very strong. Where you're like, I'm not supposed to get attacked here. This is where I heal, and it just totally takes a different change. And that gets us to 6. I'm curious where you guys are on this one, because this one came out in February 3rd, 2022. Very not quickly greenlit, but it was greenlit soon after the first one, or the 5, which, I mean, it's called Scream, even though it's technically Scream 5.
And I don't like that.
I don't like
it either.
I liked all.
I don't like it.
All the meta commentary about recalls and reboots and all that. Totally fine. I think that's very clever. It's very much a nod to the first, but to call it Scream was like, well, now how do we refer to this? It's Scream 5. Like, so it had the same creative team returning, same directors, same writers. Began production in mid 2022 once they were through a lot of the COVID protocols, and then it was announced that Neve Campbell would not be returning as Sydney for the 6th film. First time she was not coming back, citing that her contract and salary negotiations had stalled with Paramount and that she would not continue until she was fairly compensated. And I feel like the movie maybe suffered a little because of that.
It needs Sydney, or Sydney needs to die in 7.
Yeah.
Something horrific needs to happen because it is her story.
Yeah.
We are there for her. And it's just too you can't take, it would be like Stephen King taking the Goosebumps series and making it, that's a bad analogy.
I was like, because that sounds good.
Yeah. No, I would do that. I like that. I like that a lot. No, it just it would be like taking a legacy that is completely disconnected, actually, of no bloodlines. Well, besides Billy's daughter, I guess.
Yeah.
That's too far.
Yeah.
That's way too far. We've lost Gail now. We've lost Dewey. And we need some kind of...
Wait.
I mean...
Does Gail die in 6? Did I forget this?
I thought she made it.
Did she make it?
She might have made it.
Okay.
But that's on the film that you don't remember that.
Well, that is totally on the film because I watched it twice. And it was just... you know what I loved? I loved it just felt like the homage of all the costumes being in there, this person's obsession, the dad, it made sense that Quaid's character had this space for these killers. I didn't like the shotgun scene in the gas station. I don't feel like Ghostface would ever kill somebody with a shotgun.
Yeah.
But so that wasn't frightening. But actually, I didn't turn it off. You know, and I don't think that I ever will. But it was just 6 was janky.
Yeah.
It was trying to make way too many things happen. I think they were afraid that they didn't have Nev Campbell.
Yeah, which I remember hearing this, and I heard a rumor like, "Oh, this is just like to cover up that she's going to be in the movie." Like I heard it was like, gaslighting the fans. We're going to make you think she's not going to be in it, and then
you know what? She's in the first scene and she dies. Like that's something that would have just made me hard. It would have made me hard. I would have loved it. I would have loved to see like another Drew Barrymore opening. And it's Sydney.
That would have been, ultimately like a statement. Like,
Right.
And it's like, this is a brand new run for this franchise, but they didn't do it. They got cheap.
No, I
You know
really
what they
hope.
could have done? What they could have done is they could have opened 6 with us seeing the murder of Maureen.
Okay.
Because then we get to see a younger Billy again, which would have been played by another character. But then we could have seen Billy have sex with somebody and create Sam.
Yeah.
We could have seen something like that. I don't know. We needed something like that.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we're getting into some coulda, woulda, shouldas, because I mean, it is on this movie that the fact it came out in March 10th, 2023. This is not, I mean, at the time of this recording, it's not even 7 months old, and I barely remember some of the beats of this movie.
I just met first time 3 Killers.
Yeah.
Which was like,
Okay.
okay, fine. We think it's Hayden's character for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad she came back.
Yeah, so Hayden Panettiere, who I don't think anybody realized until this movie, because they never established it in 4, that she survives. Like, we never see her die.
You're right.
Yeah, in 4. And I mean, it's funny because I feel like in this movie, yeah, and it's like, unless you die on screen and there is somebody who's like, they are dead. You're not dead.
They need that in all the movies, just like a doctor that comes over and just does like all right.
Yeah. Because, the premise of this is not awful. I think they have them at college in New York. It's another homage to the first sequel, right? It's like, hey, they're back at college. We're kind of following that storyline again. And there's some interesting things going on. Like, I feel like we're going places for a purpose, and you really feel like you're in the mystery for a bit. There's even like the whole bits where like there's like Randy when he was like trying to find them in the park, where there's another callback where they're like trying to like, she's like on the phone and trying to like talk to the killer, and they're like trying to find them throughout this park. But it just felt like everything didn't pay off at the way it should have.
Yeah. And
It was so rushed.
it was so rushed. I would say the opening, I thought, was one of the better openings. I thought the movie opened great with Tony Revolori and
Samara Weaving, yeah.
Samara Weaving. I thought that
Remind
was
me
a
what
great.
happened.
It's I'm trying to remember too, but I remember really liking it. You remember?
Yeah. So Samara Weaving, who is in Ready or Not, she's the lead in that. So funny that they pulled her back in. But she's meeting somebody at a restaurant, and it's Tony Revolori. And he's calling her, or she's like texting him, and they're trying to find this restaurant. And he's like, I can't find this. So she goes outside trying to like track him down.
Oh yeah.
And he lures her into a alleyway and kills her. And the first thing we see is Ghostface rips off his mask right away.
Yes.
And
The
it's
guy
Tony
from
Rebel.
Grand Budapest Hotel.
And I was like, holy shit, are we about to watch a movie where we know who the killer is the entire time? Like, this is super interesting.
Yeah.
And then they kill him. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. That was so
I
good.
was like, we're cooking with gas. This is going to be great. And I think within the movie, there are great tension scenes, but the movie that's stringing them together suck. Like the scene where they're crossing the ladder between the two.
Yeah.
This is great suspense. Or the scene where the Randy's niece is on the subway and you see all the people in the Ghostface killer's mask. That scene is in the top echelon of suspense scenes of Scream.
You're totally right.
The problem is the movie isn't very good.
No,
Yeah.
it's 70% a good movie that does not tie well together at all. But again, you brought it up before. It makes sense because I think, and just to give the ending of 5 is the whole idea that you have Jack Quaid, he meets Mickey Madison on a subreddit about the Stab movies, and they're like, the last Stab movie sucks. So they're just film nerds. They're movie nerds who love this franchise. They're kind of ripping on like toxic fan culture at the same end that this. Like,
I thought you were gonna say state of the franchise.
we could. But yeah, and so we see that it's like, oh, his family is finding like all of his like heirlooms, right? And they're gonna try and get at this family for ruining their family or whatever. And it is like a family versus family thing. It's very kind of like Godfather in a way, but at the same end, it just, I don't know. And then Dylan Mulroney.
Oh, I mean, give him an Oscar. I'm just kidding. He's putting down the ham on it, and I love it.
Yeah.
He's really doing the turn.
I mean, we're bringing back most of the cast from the last movie because Randy's niece and nephew survive. And then no nephew.
Right, and the colors are the core. Oh my God.
Get out of here.
Yeah. You don't need to. Yeah. So, I mean, we have the core 4, and then, Dermot Mulroney. Sorry, not Dylan. I think I'm Dylan Mulroney.
You think of Dylan McDermott, McDermott, and Dermot Mulroney.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Derm.
And then Hayden Panettiere's back. But yeah, and then who were like the brother and the sister that they turn out to be? It's like it's kind of two newer actors.
It's like the one girl who has a lot of sex, like that's her character. And
her name is Liana
Liberato. Quiet boy that everyone's like, maybe it's him because he's quiet.
Yeah,
and he's like, hey guys, this is not me.
Girl's name is Liana Liberato. She's been in a lot of like teeny bopper stuff. I don't recognize anything, but I did want to call out Jack Champion, who plays the quiet dude, because he's Spider in Avatar 2. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, Loki, that's kind of a fun role. I don't know that I loved it, but I liked it.
I liked the dad. I thought that he did a very good job, very convincing. But
you know the thing about the dad? That actor he's the one that plays cello, right? Like Dermot Mulroney, or is it Dylan McDermott? One of them plays like orchestral cello, and they will do it with Michael Giacchino, the composer. I'm pretty sure
it might be.
I think it's Mulroney.
Let me see.
Type in Mulroney cello.
I'll double check it.
Nice Italian dessert.
I was gonna say it sounds like limoncello. Some Danny DeVito would drink.
Something we eat on Melrose Place.
Could I interest you in a Dermot Mulroney cello? He is an accomplished cellist. There it is. Boom. All right, boom. And
I saw a picture of him with like this great long white hair, and he was doing the cello thing. I was like, oh damn.
Yeah.
In 6, like Hayden disappears when they're in this museum for a little bit, and you're kind of like, okay, she's the killer.
Yep.
Where did she go? I remember thinking that, like, this is just dumb. We're just, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
If you've been in another Scream movie, Hayden, you stay in groups. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fact that you're separating, like when Dewey runs up the stairs in the lecture hall away from Gale, it's like, you dumb idiot.
Yeah. And especially because, like,
sorry.
She just stands there.
Yeah, her getting split off is what got her stabbed in 4. But then she goes ACAB, and then it's like, which, like, I don't know that I blame her. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna let serial killers ruin my life, and like, but it's definitely, I mean, there's fun stuff in this. It's just not a good movie.
I think it's gonna be fun one to return to maybe one day just to watch. But I think because coming off of 5 and the opening of 6, I was like, yeah, like you said, they're gonna do the what's the Falk TV show? Just one more thing. What's the where you Columbo? The Columbo thing where you know who the murderer is, and that's the tension.
Yeah,
that would have been great if that was 6. Why not? It's the 6th fucking movie. Like, why are you gonna?
It's almost like they played with that idea and then they second guessed themselves and were like, no, that's too different. We got to stay with the formula. And it's like, but that would have been kind of fun. I mean, I think the motivation works. I mean, we run down the motivations right from the top down because I think this is the unifying thing. We had Billy and Stu in the first one. Billy is getting revenge on Sydney because her mom broke up his family, right? So he walked out. I think that's a pretty strong motive. Second, and then Stu is just lost for the ride.
He's just vibing.
Yeah. 2, we have
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me.
Threw a phone at me, you take.
but then you get, then you get kind of all.
You got me pretty deep, man.
Sorry.
It's gold. It's just so gold.
Yeah. But it's like there's real motivations in that. And then the sequel, I think it made sense because you did have the first guy who is like, I'm a movie fan and I want to make this like the movie. But then you ultimately had Billy's mom, played by Laurie Metcalf, who was like, yeah, I'm going to get revenge for my son. So you did have like these dual like motivations that worked. And I feel like everything just kind of fell apart as these motivations went apart. It was like, well, I want to be the star of the movie. We get that in like 3. It's like, I want to make my own movie. And also, you're my sister. And
Yeah.
and then 4, it's like, what? Yeah, Emma Roberts is like, I want to be Sydney because I had to grow up my whole life hearing about you. What was the fucking Rory Culkin's motivation?
Because I think he wanted to be with Emma Roberts, probably.
No, he wanted to bang Hayden Panettiere's character. Remember?
Oh, that's
she wouldn't. She wouldn't put out.
So did we ever
She's
establish?
smart.
Did he just want to make a movie? I don't know.
He's just a incel.
Yeah.
In 5.
And then 5, it was Jack Quaid and Mickey Madison met on a subreddit. They were like, the Stab movies suck. We need to come up with a reboot that's based on our real events because the Stab movies were just kind of writing their own scripts.
Right.
And they're like, we need to bring it back and bring real events and base it on that. And then we're going to base it on our story that we're creating. And then this one is Jack Quaid's family is getting revenge, his brother, his sister, and his dad for him getting killed by Sydney and the sisters, the Carpenter sisters.
Yeah.
Carpenter Sisters.
So
like a band.
Yeah.
It just felt like, I don't know, as weird as 5 was, it did feel like, or as like that motivation was, it worked. And maybe because it was surprising. Whereas like, I don't know. I felt like when the reveal happened in 6, I'm like, okay, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Ish.
But you want it to tie to the deeper mythology. I always want it to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whether it's dumb, like I want it to go back to the beginning in a way, or at least just the core group.
But it
not
feels
just like revenge upon revenge. And then it's just a cycle. The next movie's going to be like the grandpa, like, you killed my son and my grandson.
Right. It's Sydney's dad. Whoa, he's back.
I'd love like a John Wick with Sydney's dad, just like a paunchy, like 60-year-old guy. Like, oh, these kids keep dying. I got to spend more time at home.
It's a gun.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know. I think it didn't have the right punch as much as it tried to tie back. It feels like it's trying to set up Sam as like, oh, you're Billy's daughter, so you have this killer in you. And it's like, but it doesn't seem like she's really into that. Although my other issue with this is stab wounds felt like a suggestion and not really like a death sentence. And I'm like, Gail got stabbed many times, survived. Like Tara gets stabbed, Jenna Ortega's character, many times and survives. I'm like, do people just die from stab wounds anymore? Like all the core 4 survived again. I'm like, come on, this is silly. But I don't know. I'm glad that they're coming up with bigger ideas. But I think in our coulda, woulda, shoulda, it's like I would love to see them do something like the premise of that 6 could have been, or something like, I don't know. That just trying to change the narrative. Maybe it is one of the leads that is the killer finally.
Bring it on. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, maybe losing Dewey broke Gail. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it is, I don't know what the next one has to be, but I want to go back in time.
Yeah, I kind of was thinking about that, but what if you go like way back, like when they first make like the mask that makes all these masks?
Oh man.
Like I want like
costume shop?
like an 1900, like 1910 costume shop.
The painter of Scream.
Like a telegram every time.
Look at this mask I've come up with.
What's your favorite scary movie? See?
What's a movie?
Yeah, where they just like, what's your favorite picture?
What's your favorite picture, huh? Have you seen that one with Bogey?
Because I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, yeah. It's like, God.
A prohibition era Scream movie.
Fuck, that'd be kind of fun, though. What, but I do kind of like the idea that you brought up before, Robbie. Like, what if it was like a prequel, like the first Scream or something like
I want to
that?
see it. I want to see it so bad. I don't want it to be as sex shamey as like the first few Screams were.
Yeah.
Like calling her a whore and things like that. Like I want to see that. I want to explore these men in her life and the impact the loss had on Sydney and her dad. But I don't know how to do that effectively because we've kind of moved on.
Yeah.
Right? We have to move on. Otherwise, it all comes to an end. And we can't really kill Sydney.
It does feel like that would be the last Scream, is if Sydney dies.
The final Scream.
But
Right.
the problem is I would
She was
never
a
have...
Palpatine the whole time. Yeah. You know? Like...
Got to give Chewbacca his medal.
I do like making like Gail the killer and doing just following her. Like maybe she has her talk show, but maybe like there's like writers
write that book.
Maybe there's writers negotiations and she thinks she's going to bring her show back, but everyone doesn't like that. So she gets fired off of her show and then she gets angry and she wants to start killing people to make new stuff to write about. I don't know. I don't think that's super engaging, but I don't think that's as bad or worse as any of the other motives and anything else.
It gives Gail at least some kind of ending that is kind of speaks to the selfish person that was inside of her. But I also feel like she's evolved where she's like, she's not that person anymore. She's here to help people like Dewey tried to, right? That's like the one thing he taught her in this series is like, you can be an altruistic person and not think about yourself. You can try and help others. And I mean, she does have that first moment in the first movie, but then ultimately it's like, I don't need to tell this report.
Yeah, but you have like you have Sam who sees these Billy visions. You could have Gail having like these Dewey visions, like, oh, Gail, you really shouldn't stab that guy. It's not nice. Gail, put the knife away.
Come on, Gail. Come on, Gail.
Yeah, I don't know how. I think that they're on the right track. They just need a better script.
Yeah,
because of those great moments in 6 and 5. I think they had the right team of performers to get it in. But what I would love is like a Reese Witherspoon to come on and get murdered. Like, let's have those huge names. You have the money, kill them. You know, let's see these people we love. That's what we were here for.
Yeah.
And I want to see it again.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe they don't die. Maybe it is kind of what's the youngest? What's Ortega's character name? Tara. Like maybe it is the beginning where we see Tara not die, and it is a name. Like you know, it's Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
And,
Oh man.
and she becomes the killer. You know, something along those lines. Or we see Tara, or we see Sam in like working in a hospital. Where are their careers? What are they doing? They can't just be survivors of these traumatic events. What are their real life situations, and how does it impact?
Yeah. Ultimately, we need to bring stakes back, too. I think that's the thing with this 6 movie, not killing Gale, not killing any of the core 4. It's like, okay, so everybody's got plot armor, and we're just waiting for the third part of this.
Where are the secrets? Where are the reveals? What's the new information?
Yeah. It just felt like, it just was kind of, it felt like it had a big narrative set up for sort of a very standard finish.
Yeah.
Like, it was just the family out for revenge again, same as the original sequel.
Did we determine who Sam's mom is?
Maybe.
Didn't. It was just some.
Did they say in the movie?
They probably quickly said something like maybe she just went.
She would have a motive.
Sure.
She's a character we don't know. I don't know. That probably just went over my head last night. I was having too good of a time.
I don't know that she's anybody significant. She was just somebody I think who hooked up with Billy, but she's like a drunk now, I think, because of her encounters. And
Sure.
she was like not flying back from London, even though her daughter got like stabbed severely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it is Helen Mirren. No, just
Maybe
kidding.
it is.
Maybe it's
it is.
actual Mrs. Tingle. I don't know if she survives this.
Two white people.
Which I think gets us to our power rankings today, guys, where I am asking you guys this week, who are your top 3 Ghostface killers? And Robbie, as our guest, would you like to go first?
I would love to. Yeah. My first is Laurie Metcalf. I just loved the reveal. I loved her commitment to the stabbings and the Debbie Salt. Like she's an amazing actress.
Yeah.
It was a win for them to have her in that role. And then Billy and then Quaid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, are you including the tandems with those, or are these just individuals?
Individuals.
Okay.
I did love the actor that was with Metcalf.
Okay.
I forget his name.
Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah. He was amazing. You know, he was a copy. He was a copy of Billy in a lot of ways. And so that's why he's not. It's Laurie and then Billy and then Quaid.
Okay. I think
Stu's up there.
Stu's the honorable
Stu has the
mention.
crown.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's just because,
He gets his Chewy medal, like in number
totally.
or his 9.
Yeah.
Good picks. Fred, what do you got?
I'm going to go Stu number 1 with the bullet.
Ooh.
Laurie Metcalf with 2, just for those eyes. And then at 3, I'm going to make it a Scream 1 sandwich and put Billy Loomis, just because I think there is something creepy, and also like he seems like a heartthrob about Skeet in that movie.
Yeah.
Like he seems like a killer, but also could just be like, the star of a teen show or something.
Yeah. I think I'll agree on that front and put Billy number 1. Skeet all right.
Wow.
Because I think without landing that reveal on the first one, the rest don't work. You got to be able to like throw people off the scent throughout the movie and then bring it back and be like,
I think so. It's corn syrup.
yeah.
That's why I wore a white t-shirt and jeans tonight. So back for Billy.
Didn't even make the connection. Thought you were just being cozy. Number 2, though, I think I will go Jack Quaid because I think he's so good in 5. And again, he pulls off the magic trick of it can't be this boyfriend. He's got his alibis. It sure is him. 3 is tough. I think, man, it's so hard not to give it to Laurie Metcalf because she sells not being the killer so well. And I think she does pull off one thing that really bugs me about so many of the rest, including Dermot Mulvaney and everybody else. Throughout the movie, everybody acts so normal. One thing that I like about Stu and Bill is that, or Billy, Stu and Bill, so formal, Stu and Bill, is that
Call him Robert.
My old colleague.
my old colleagues, Stu and Bill, go back to college with those fellas. But I like that they seem kind of unhinged throughout the whole movie, that you would kind of suspect them. Everybody else, I feel like, seems just way too normal. And I think that's obviously to the credit of Jack Quaid that he does kind of play that very well in that twist. But Laurie Metcalf, I feel like, never loses the thing. She's very earnest throughout the movie. And then when she is revealed, she becomes very serious and whatever. And it's like, oh, that's because she wanted you to think that. She really sells the fact that, like, I didn't want you to have any scent around me. That I'm just here. I'm a reporter doing my job. And when she snaps, she doesn't go hammy. She just kind of goes, you're going to die now. And this is all my plan. You fucked my life up, even though I'm really the one who still walked out on my son. And,
Yeah.
But man, Matthew Lillard deserves his honorable mention crown. He is so good. This is it, Sid.
Yeah.
And I feel like Oliphant tried to do a little bit of it with like the Laurie Metcalf reveal. He's like, Billy's mother. Didn't see that coming, did ya? Like the most gritted teeth ever.
So good. What a fun it's a fun franchise. There's definitely 3 very good movies. There's the couple that are fun to watch and 2 that we'll probably not talk about
Ever again.
But I am excited in like 2 years or so, Halloween time, throw on 6 just to see how I feel about it. I think I'm going to like it a lot more, but it's still going to be lower for me.
I'm going to go back home tonight and watch 6 again.
Good.
Nice.
I think I
love
bought it.
I think we might have to finish it now too. Just because I've watched the first 5 already again this month, and I'm like, I gotta see 6 now.
I'm either gonna do Teaching Mrs. Tingle or I'm gonna go back and I've been watching. Ooh, I watched The Faculty a lot.
Wild Things for the Craft.
I love Wild Things so much, and
Kevin Bacon's penis.
We need to stand Helen Mirren as a killer in the future horror movie. There's a coulda, woulda, shoulda.
I've been watching the Chucky TV series recently, and that's been hitting around Halloween time.
Nice. One day we'll do Child's Play, but we're not there yet. That does get us to the end of this episode, though. Robby, thank you so much for being on again.
Thanks for having me, handsome fellas.
It's our pleasure. But before we let you go, is there anything you would like to plug at this time?
Nope.
Okay. Perfect.
I'm in the New York Theater Festival.
Oh.
So if you're in New York, November 14th, 16th, or 18th, I will be in a production called Paradise, written by Michael David Stoddard.
Wow.
Very cool.
That's awesome. All right. Is there a website for those?
Yep.
We'll add those details.
nytheaterfestival.com.
Perfect. All right. Take a look at that. Yeah, if you're in the New York area or heading out there. Sounds like awesome. Good luck with that. Or break a leg. I'm sorry.
I'm the killer. I'm just kidding.
Should have known it all along. Fred, about you? Anything to plug?
Nothing personally. I will say it's Halloween time. Maybe go out, check out some local haunted houses, because I know, like, post-COVID, I think there was some struggle there with some of them. And I went to the Hills Have Eyes for my wife's birthday. I had a great time. So I'd recommend holiday season. You're feeling that? Go check out some of these, local haunted houses near you.
There's some fun ones in Wisconsin for sure. I haven't been to one in years, but they do a great job. I'll just plug the podcast here. We are State of the Franchise, Fred and Tom. Find us on Facebook, not LinkedIn, Twitter /X. We'll be on LinkedIn one day.
One day.
Wait. Connect with us and get all that networking. We're also on Instagram and Threads, which we rarely use, but we'll maybe use it. We also have our YouTube channel, which is exciting. Look at our link tree, State of the Franchise, Fred and Tom. We have links for all of our episodes in our past, and we also have a link for donation. If you feel like leaving a one-time donation to the episode, we would appreciate it. But really, we are just happy that you are a avid listener. And stay tuned for next time, where we have a big episode. It's our 2nd annual Halloween episode.
Scream of the Franken-chise.
There you go. You got it. And it will be a big one, because we'll be celebrating a little milestone then. We'll see you guys then.
Goodbye.
Bye.
It's charge my phone, drive, listening to you. And what they talking about will